Hi, this is Deanna Kosaraju from Global Tech Women. I hope you are enjoying Voices 2014 version 2.0. It's been an amazing time so far, and we still have nearly 12 hours of sessions remaining. And some of these sessions are going to really be great. What this session in particular, if you're really wanting to understand how you can build your credibility in the industry, with other individuals, with organizations, Karen is the person that you need to be speaking with. And so I'm really glad that you're here for this session today in building your street cred. A couple of housekeeping items. I see there's a number of visitors here. You need to log in to Spreecast in order to take advantage of the chat that's over on the right-hand side. However, if you don't want to log in, you can tweet them at hashtag Voices 2014. I will be monitoring that stream and I will be asking Karen any questions out on that Twitter feed. Secondly, please take advantage of the chat window on the right-hand side. It's for networking as well as asking questions. However, we do have a question box below us, and those questions will be queued for Karen to answer when she's at a point where she can answer those questions. She will do that. And this link will be available as a recording. So 30 minutes after the session has concluded, you can use this URL to access the recording at any time. And that will be up for at least 30 days. I'm working it out with Spreecast between 30 days and 6 months. As soon as I know the exact number, I'll let you know. But it will be up for some time so that you can share it with friends and colleagues or watch it again. I know I'm going to be watching a number of these sessions again. And also, lastly, feedback is welcome. If you see something you really like, or you think that needs some improvement, or you see something missing that we should be having at Voices 2015, oh my goodness, I don't even want to think about that right now. Send it to me, email me at deanna@globaltechwomen.com. You can tweet it, or you can add it to our fabulous Facebook group where we have very animated conversations about news and features about women in tech around the world. So I'm going to go off the screen now, and Karen's going to get started on her presentation. There will be a presentation that loads. When it loads, you all have immediate access to this, meaning you can drag and drop it, and you will have to advance the screen along with Karen. So Karen will let you know what slide she's on, but then you need to go ahead and click the arrow forward so that you can follow along with her. So I hope I'm clear. I haven't had enough coffee. I'm going to go get some more, and hopefully I'll be back. No, I'll be back. I'm just joking. So with that, here's Karen.
Great. Thanks so much, Deanna, and thank you for this opportunity to talk to everyone. It's exciting to see those of you who have shared where you're calling from. Um, it's great to see someone from Singapore, from California, from Oklahoma, in the United States. Welcome, everyone. And as Deanna said, my name is Karen Catlin. I am, and I can see this presentation now. I'm going to be opening that. I encourage you to you should see it in the lower right hand side of your window. Put that wherever you want on the screen. And I am on the title right now. Title slide, Build Street Cred to Prove You Can Do the Job. So let's tell you a little bit about myself, and then we'll get into the topic of the talk. I work with women in the tech industry to help them become powerful leaders. And I do this with leadership coaching individually as well as in groups. And I also advise tech companies on how they can attract women to their company and retain the women they have. And it's just a very fulfilling job for me. And I do all of this based on my professional experience. I have over 25 years of experience in the industry, most of it in Silicon Valley. And I started out as a software engineer, as all might be. And I then moved into people management and executive management. And I was the vice president at Adobe Systems in charge of shared services, the CTO there. And I've also been an executive in a startup company, of an early stage startup. So I've kind of run the gamut from software engineering to executive leadership and entrepreneurship. And I use all of that to inform how I coach and help women be successful today and pass it forward. And one of the topics is street cred. So I'm going to forward to the slide 2. and the title is What is Street Cred? And so I began exploring this topic of street cred when I started hearing from women who were had been stay-at-home moms thinking about getting back into the tech industry. And they had this gap on their resume, as you can imagine, and they wanted to fill it with something to show that they were still relevant to the tech industry and relevant to the professional job. But that wasn't all. I also heard from people that I was coaching that they were thinking about doing a job pivot, pivot to a new area, for example, moving from engineering into product management. But they didn't have that MBA they thought they would need. Or they were thinking about leaving their big company to become an entrepreneur and a startup, but they had never done that before. And they were wondering, what do I need to do to prove to investors and customers that I am a good entrepreneur and I am trustworthy and be. Um, and so they all of these people felt that they had to prove to others that they could do the job, and that's where street cred came about. So street cred is all about proving yourself, and its roots are in American inner cities where kids, urban kids on the street, need to do things to make sure they um, survive and even thrive on the streets. And these things help them build their reputation and maybe make them look cooler or smarter or more accomplished, maybe even tougher than they maybe are. And their reputation precedes them. It's what other people think about them. Maybe they haven't even met them before, right? And in a professional setting, the same types of things are important. What does your resume or your LinkedIn profile or that reputation, the things other people say about you, what do they say without you even how can you appear to be as accomplished or even more accomplished than you are when you're trying to prove yourself? And this proving yourself is in all sorts of contexts. I'd like to share one that from my background, story from my background, where I think street cred played an important role. I just didn't know to call it street cred yet. Earlier in my career, I had had one job, and I left that job to move to a different country with my husband. And this other country, I knew no one. England, I knew no one. And this was the days before LinkedIn, so I didn't even know someone who knew someone. I just couldn't access that network. And I started putting my resume out there and job seeking. And one of the things on my resume was a series of publications. So that first job I did have out of college, I worked at a research institute. And when you work at a research institute, your job often is to share your research, publish it, talk at conferences and things like that. And so I had a handful of ACM publications on my resume. And I am convinced that that's what gave me the street cred I needed to get the job. Um, I did get a job within about a month of moving to England, and um, and it was in a research group. And I'm sure that they looked at my resume and said, well, we don't know this young American, this person from this country, but look at the publications she's done. Someone else has already vetted her work and approved it and brought it in to be featured at these ACM conferences. So if all those other people think that she's doing good work and worthwhile work and her work, then I bet she'll do good work here. So that was what gave me the cred at that time in my career. I really needed it. But when you're unknown or moving to another country, that's just one example of when you might need street cred. It may be that you want to convince someone like an employer to take a risk on you. Maybe you don't have just the right engineering degree from that selected university that will convince someone that you're bringing a certain rigor and discipline to the job that they know. So maybe you need to convince them to take a chance. Or maybe you are that person who's had a gap in your career and you want to show that you're still relevant. They can take a risk on you that way. Um, or maybe that you want to move into that product management job and you don't have that MBA, or maybe you got that MBA online, or learn to program online, or maybe you've never even had a job before and you're just finishing up your university degree and you want to go on to start your career. All of this is about proving to others and building up that reputation. They can take it. Okay, so let's go on to the next slide. So if you forward to slide number 3, just very quickly the agenda. So today's talk, I'm going to review 5 techniques that companies use to build credibility with their customers. And then I'm going to brainstorm with you and share some ideas of how you can use the same techniques to apply to your personal brand, to prove your credibility with your personal brand. And then we'll have time for Q&A. And really my goal for all of you is that by the end of the talk, you can identify one thing that you want to do differently to build your street cred. And that one thing might be something that you're going to change on your LinkedIn profile, tomorrow or next week at the office. Change your LinkedIn profile to reflect your street cred. Or it might be that you're going to have that in your back pocket the next time you're talking in an interview setting. Or perhaps you're going to think about how you might weave that street cred into the next performance review that you're doing. So just that's my goal, is identify just one thing that you can do differently to show up differently next week. And of course, bonus points if you can get more than one. And I do hope that you start sharing things in the chat window. I encourage you to use the chat window to get to know each other. Perhaps you'd like to share what your unique situation is. Are you looking for a new job right now, or are you a promotion or a stretch assignment at your job? Are you still a student thinking about how you're going to show up as you start your career? Feel free to share those things in the chat window. And if anyone has a specific question for me, please use that blue button that says question. It's probably right underneath. Okay, anyway, let's get started with the first technique. So I'm going to forward to slide number 4. And the first technique is the notion of simple metrics. So companies use simple metrics to prove credibility with their customers and build them. And an example, even though some of you may not love McDonald's, it's such a great example to highlight this technique, so I've chosen to use it here. So McDonald's, in my youth, every McDonald's had a sign outside of their restaurant saying how many millions of burgers had been served. And over time, that became billions of burgers. And that's all they said. There was no other review of the quality of the burgers. There wasn't a Yelp listing for them way back. Um, all they provided was that simple metric of the number of burgers served. And of course, if you were someone driving by that never been in, you might think to yourself, huh, if all those millions or billions of people like McDonald's, maybe I'll like them too. And so with that simple metric, they started building up their customer base. I'm going to forward to slide number 5. We'll talk about simple metrics for you. Now, if you're an engineer, and some of you are software engineers based on the demographics of your simple metrics may be the number of lines you have in production today at your company. Or it may be the number of open source contributions you have made. You don't have to describe those open source contributions to get the credit, just the number of them. And then during an interview or something, follow up that there might be questions about it, just the number of open source contributions. Or the number of GitHub repos you've contributed to, right? The number of awards you've won at hackathons. These are all simple metrics that you can highlight about yourself. If your job is going to entail being active on social media, it may be the number of Twitter followers you have or other followers on the channel. And I have an example here on the slide about Guy Kawasaki, who has over 1 million Twitter followers. That's a little aspirational for most of us. And so maybe you don't have an impressive number of Twitter followers yet in your career, but you may have another simple metric you can share, like you've grown your followers on social media by 10% every month for the last 12 months. That's a very compelling number because it shows that you get what it takes to be successful and to grow those followers to your job. Okay? So think about that. On the lower left, I have a picture of a Coursera certificate. So maybe the simple metric is the number of certificates or industry-specific exams you've taken in the past, something along those lines that might be meaningful for the job you're going for. And of course, there's also clout scores at 1.55, which is I aspire to get that bit better. But anyway, it's a number showing how your influence basically online by looking across LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook and other social media sites to amalgamate, put a number on what you or if you're in online marketing, maybe it's the click-through rate that you achieved in the last campaign or the improvements you made based on how those advertising. So as you see, there's a lot of different kinds of simple metrics that you can have, your equivalent of the number of burgers you served. And what I encourage all of you to do is, if you're thinking about these simple metrics, is get some feedback on them. Go talk to a recruiter that you might be working with, or that you know, or a peer, or a mentor, an old boss. Get feedback. Does this simple metric I'm thinking about sharing about my background resonate with you? What does it say? And then figure out if that's something you want to put in your LinkedIn profile or use for performance review or whatever. And if you have any questions about simple metrics, please ask them, or if you're thinking about a simple metric that might be meaningful for you, please put it in the chat window. Dialogue there. As people are typing, if you do that, we go on to the next slide, number 6. And this is our technique number 2. And so the second technique is build your credibility by association with others. And my favorite way that companies do this is with celebrity endorsements. And here is Betty White in a Snickers commercial from last year, where basically, celebrity endorsements, if you like that celebrity, you think, oh, I'm going to like the product that they're endorsing or they're using, or cool or beautiful or funny or whatever it might be about that celebrity, their brand. You think that you're going to pick up on it if you buy that product. And I want to share and relate this to a woman I was helping with her resume, in how she could. I made a recommendation to her how she could use this notion of association to build up her career. So this young woman was just finishing her master's degree in computer science. She hadn't had a job yet, so her resume was full of student work. And we talked about her background, her journey had been like, and then I started looking at her resume, and I realized she was missing this one great way to build cred. And it was that over her time at school, she had had scholarships and grants from some of the top tech companies, like Google, Facebook, and a few others. And some of these, in some ways, were very small. They were grants to attend a conference, for example. Some of them were more scholarships, which were more significant. But in total, they associated her with those companies. And that meant that someone at those companies, who in general those respected, so the people working there are respected, someone vetted her background and her work in order to give her that scholarship or that travel grant. So I made the recommendation that she add just a simple line, recipient of scholarships and grants from Google, Facebook, and the other companies. Again, that simple line would help her build her association with those very well-known and respected techs. And there are other ways too, of course, to build your association, your street cred through association. So let's go through to slide number 7. So on the left, I have a picture of a LinkedIn graph showing how I was connected to someone. I kind of graded out. But LinkedIn, it may be obvious, but it's so vital to build that network that is on LinkedIn, because people use it all the time to see who you know. who you're associated with, and that's going to give them credibility. If 2 degrees of separation from them or they respect. Um, and um, I'll share, if you're working in a company right now, you may not be connecting with everyone you work with, and that's fine. I mean, it's not something that you don't, you know their email addresses, your Outlook email address book or whatever email tool you're using. So you may not think about that. But one thing I did when I was at System, whenever someone would leave, go on to something else, I would take the opportunity at that time to connect with them. Um, and so I didn't connect with every all the 10,000 employees that worked there, but one by one, as the people I knew left, I would connect with them, and that allowed me to build my network in a way that was meaningful. There are a lot of strategies for that. I share that one with you. Encourage you to do that network growing. Um, Another way to build your cred by showing who you're associated with is by publishing. And so this might be a paper or a story or a blog post or a chapter in a book or an entire book. And in my case, I've listed here an icon I created to show and link to my story on LinkedIn. So there, the Lean In movement, Cheryl Sanders' follow-up organization she started, has a website full of stories of times that people leaned in or leaned back from their career. And these stories are inspirational on so many levels. And I was asked to write my lean in story, which I submitted and to help me build my credibility, I then created this logo, Catlin profiled on LinkedIn, and I put that on my website. And again, hopefully someone might be looking for a leadership coach and see that, say, hey, I like the lean in message, and I like that. I like Sheryl Sandberg, she stands for, so I'll probably like Karen, she does. Another example may be if you have an opportunity to give a TED or a TEDx talk. That gives you credit, right? Someone, or if you hear that someone's given a TED or a TEDx talk, you associate them with the other TED and TEDx talks that you've heard and that you respect and that you've been inspired by, and so forth. And so it's another way to build your association. Um, in the purple bar at the bottom of the window on my slide is somebody's Twitter profile that I copied, and I grayed out some of the things to help them keep their anonymity. But I love this woman's Twitter description, which has to be in 140 characters. She says a software engineer, and she has the name of the company at Huffington Post writer. Period. That's her second thing. And sure enough, I went to Huffington Post to search for her, and she has 3 articles that she authored or co-authored. And boy, that gives her cred, right? And this woman's actually very young, but she has taken the time to write and submit articles and be accepted by a pretty well-respected news outlet. Um, and then she goes on to say her interest. She loves art, engineering, and tea, and then the 2 schools that she's graduated. So, and by the way, one of those schools, the way she earned her engineering knowledge and software engineering knowledge is one of these hacker schools. So she proudly puts that on her LinkedIn profile too, as well as her undergrad. So I just thought that was a neat way to highlight your street credit and also show you what the power is if you can do some writing and have that be published in a place that's respected. Of course, you can also speak at conferences and have that be your that put them on. Does anyone have any questions about building your street credit association? Throw those in the chat window, or maybe you are thinking about how your street cred could be boosted or is already boosted with association with other people or movements or organizations. Feel free to share that in the chat window. We'll go on to slide number. So the third way to build credibility is with win-win solutions. And companies use win-win solutions a lot to give free stuff away, to get the customer's attention, to have them try a product, to have them maybe get a little addicted to it. And of course, software startups use this a lot. Here are just three examples of software companies who give stuff away for free. Um, LinkedIn, we all can use that for free. Um, and the way they make money then is with added functionality. So if you want to be able to send emails to people outside of your network, for example, or really see who's looking you up, um, you can pay a monthly service charge, a service fee to unlock that functionality. Um, and then there's a company like Dropbox, which again you can use for free to a certain capacity. If you want more than their baseline capacity of storage, then you pay more to unlock that additional. And then there's something like Words with Friends, which is free to download as an app for use online. But they serve up ads, right? So they let you use it for free to grow their business, but then they'll start serving ads. And if you want to not see the ads, you have to buy it. So in each of these cases, the companies are doing something to give away, and it's helpful to the consumers, to the end users, because you're getting something. But they each have a way of then adding functionality by increasing capacity by serving up. But it allows them to grow their customer base and again build up that credibility that this is a product that is useful and credible. And so I have a story about win-win solutions. At one point in my career, I was the program manager, project manager in my software company. And as the company grew, the other teams wanted to have project managers on their efforts as well. And I didn't really do this because I thought it was going to be a win-win solution. I was just being helpful, and I offered to write job descriptions, interview candidates, and when candidates were hired, I offered to train them. And at the time, I wanted to grow my professional colleagues and have some like-minded people share my knowledge. I was just trying to be helpful. But boy, it really turned into this win-win solution for my career and helped me build credibility. Um, every single person that I hired or I trained that had been hired, I was a manager, but every single person I was able to build professional ties with them. I was able to grow my reputation as sort of keeper of the knowledge. Like, this is how you run a successful here are the lessons we learn each time. Let's share them. Let's grow our collective knowledge all at the same time. So I became the keeper of the knowledge, the subject matter expert, and the person who kind of knew everything that was going on in the program management. And these people reached out to me when they wanted to understand what some best practices or brainstorm ideas for how to do something better next time and so forth. Now, how did that turn into a win-win solution? Well, because I was seen as the subject matter, the thought leader for this one discipline, I was then seen as someone who just wasn't a doer, but was a strategic thinker across the organization. And once I was seen as a strategic thinker and not just a doer, I was then able to add more capacities to my job and take on additional responsibilities because people they had this reputation of me in their mind that I thought holistically about the company, about the projects going on. I wasn't just doing what I was responsible for. And so this became something that was a springboard for my career in leadership. It's a way of just so I share that as hopefully a way for you to think about these win-win solutions and how you might apply it to your personal life. And let's move on to slide number 9. And there are other ways of being or building your cred with win-win solutions. So internships at any age are an amazing opportunity. They're win-win because the company gets to have really great talent for not a lot of money. And of course, you learn a lot, you build your network, um, have something else to add to your resume. It's great if you're returning to work after taking a break, if you're a student. Um, just don't discount that internship opportunity. Um, Another way to apply this technique to your personal brand is volunteering, and that's a person picking up trash in a beach cleanup. Um, Volunteering is another way. Of course, you're giving your time, talent, treasures away for free, but in return, not only are you getting feel good about doing that volunteer work, but you're also building your network, potentially building valuable skills. If you're volunteering in a professional capacity, like working at a hackathon, volunteering at a hackathon, or at a local conference that might be in the backyard that you want to attend. Those are ways to learn skills, build your network in a professional way, and get something out of it that you might not even know. Just like me with this example from my career, where I was being helpful, I wasn't really sure what was going to happen from that. But good things really do. Um, and then the third way that you can get something in a win-win type of way is by guest blogging. And there are it's win-win because the person who owns the blog loves to have other people with a similar message or voice or something complementary to what they're blogging about. They love to have other people write. You know, it takes them off the bit, it enriches the conversation that's happening, potentially brings a new audience to their blog that the guest blogger for them. So all of those are wins for the person who owns the blog. And of course, you as an individual blogging might get additional reputation from that. People hear about you, appreciate your perspective. Um, and um, and the other thing about guest blogging, there are opportunities to blog in places like Medium. Medium is a big platform with all sorts of threads of blogs. So it's not really guest blogging, it's contributing your blog post, your conversation to this ongoing thread of conversations in the so it's a way you don't even have to get approval. You just get an account and contribute your thoughts to it. And of course, then also you can post on LinkedIn, for example, and post a commentary. I read recently to that. So it can be a very lightweight approach to building your online reputation, and in a way it's being helpful to others. You're sharing your view. Um, oh, and I'm sorry, just see in the chat window, Deanna chimed in. You could volunteer to help with voices. Yes, definitely. Great. Thanks for mentioning that, Deanna. Like I'm doing today. This is fun. If you have other ideas of win-win solutions that you might apply or have seen yourself in a way that helps you build your reputation, please share it with everybody. Some of my ideas, but certainly those. Well, let's go on to slide number 10. We'll go on to our fourth technique. And so this technique is the wisdom of others, the wisdom of the crowd. And this is a way of leveraging what other people think of the products you're selling or offering to build up your reputation with your customers. And I was fascinated by this example. These pictures are from Nordstrom's earlier, I guess it was last summer they started doing it. And Nordstrom is a fashion department store in the west coast of the United States. There are many of these stores. And what they started doing was curating displays in their stores saying these are the top 10 items. So they weren't saying anything else about these products. They weren't saying these are the most comfortable, the most fashion forward, you know, the things you'll see on the red carpet. They weren't saying any of those things. They were just saying these are top. This is what others say about the products we're selling, popular. And then on the right, they also started hanging these Pinterest hang tags off of merchandise so that as you're browsing through purses or handbags or sweaters and so forth, that might catch your eye. And you might say to yourself, huh, if so, all these people are pinning these on Pinterest, maybe I'll like it too. Whatever your think people pin for, whether it's fashion forward things or the trendiest wedding outfits or the best products for distance running or whatever that might be. You just have that mental model in your mind and you say, other people are taking time to pin too. And I don't know about you, but for me to see that, it says a lot more than a salesperson coming up to me when I'm looking at a shoe and saying, oh, that's the one we're selling out of. That's the top seller. And in the back of my mind, I'm saying, oh, yeah, and you said that to the person who put the shoe over there and over there and over there. I just I'm kind of skeptical that way. So to me, this is a more credible way of showing and saying how popular you are. So let's go on to slide number 11. And how these are ways that you can leverage what other people think to build your credibility. Um, these are just a couple of examples. This first one is a picture of a code review made up, but imagine if that you are the person who does the majority of the code reviews for your team. Being able to say that in an interview when people say, well, tell me about your coding skills. You say, well, let me tell you, I'm the person everyone goes to do their code. It's a very sort of comfortable way of bragging about your skills and what you bring to the table, right? But you're bringing in the wisdom of everybody else. So another way you can do this, of course, is with LinkedIn and the recommendations and endorsements that you can do for other people or have them do for you. And I remember talking to a recruiter about a year ago, and I asked her, what are those recommendations on LinkedIn? Do they mean anything to the recruiters looking at candidates? And this was a tech recruiter, and she said, absolutely. She said, we don't necessarily read every one, but everyone should have at least a handful of recommendations on their LinkedIn profile, and it becomes a red flag if you don't have any. And of course, if you have too many, it's sort of unusual and unnatural. So then it becomes too. But you definitely want to have some. And if you don't have any, I want to let you in on a little secret to do this. Now you may be thinking, oh, I have a job right now, and I don't want to ask my boss for a recommendation because he or she is going to be looking for a new job. Sure, you don't want to do it and raise any red flags like that. However, you can, when you finish a project, ask somebody you work with that you respect or your manager to write you a recommendation at that point and just say, I think I did a good job on this project. Would you write a recommendation for them? And here's the other secret. You can actually write the recommendation for them. Um, you can draft it. You can say, here are the points that I think you might want to put in a recommendation and write it out and make it easy for that person to say, yeah, I agree with that, or I'm just going to edit that a little bit and then post it. If you're just putting it all on their shoulders to do, sometimes it becomes a task that's not important to them, and so they're not going to do it. So anything you can do to make it easy for someone else to give you a recommendation on LinkedIn, you should do. Um, of course, anytime you finish an internship or a volunteer project, or you are leaving a job, or school or something, you look for those recommendations. Another way that you can leverage and showcase your reputation, showcase what others think of you, is if you are a blogger and a writer, think about getting your stuff syndicated by others. So Women 2.0 is one of the blogs that syndicates my content, which always so excited for me. Read one of my posts and decide to put it on their blog. It's basically saying someone else thinks highly of the work I've just written. And so, again, it's a way to show that other people value what you've done. And so the person you're trying to focus on you in a professional way should also value it. And then I put in the example of meetups here. If you are someone who's organized a meetup and you have a growing population of followers or members on your meetup, that's another thing that you can say, hey, people value the meetup I've or the hackathon see. And again, it's not just me saying I did a good job. It's all these other people saying that they value it. And that's the key, right? To build that streak. Um, and again, I want to emphasize, I talked about this with the code review picture, but the important thing about this kind of street cred um, is you will get questions over your career that in interviews and other settings, compare yourself to somebody, compare yourself to your peers, compare yourself to other software engineers in your graduating class, compare yourself. And that is so hard to do. But if you think about this notion of this kind of street credit, it's very easy. I'm the one that people come to. This is what people think of the content I blog about. This is what people have thought about the projects. This is how many people think this stuff or this other is useful. It's so much easier to talk about it in terms of other people think yourself. Comes across as very genuine and easy for, especially for many of us who are women who have trouble bragging about it. Okay, and if you have any questions or ideas about this particular technique, leveraging the crowd, share it. Move on to slide number 12. And this is the last technique, number 5. And this is all about staying relevant. So companies, successful companies, embrace change. They embrace new technology. They embrace disruptive things that are happening. They embrace what the competition's doing. And they make changes. And if you're familiar with the Innovator's Dilemma, book by Christian Clayton, um, the Innovator's Dilemma is all about companies not embracing the change because whatever they're doing may be successful. And a new product, on top of that successful product, may require a lot of capital investment that's not, or it may be risky in terms of we're going to alienate our old customers as we grow to new customers, or we're going to do something to dilute our brand with the market. Or we're going to do something that's going to disrupt our revenue line and Wall Street stocks. There are all these reasons you can make up for why you shouldn't embrace change because, frankly, what you're doing made you successful. So you keep wanting to. But that's not healthy for companies. And these are just two examples. Blockbuster was a video rental chain in the United States storefront. They did not embrace the revolution that Netflix introduced with sending DVDs by mail and, of course, now streaming work. They tried to do it, but it was too late for them. So they did not embrace the change and they've gone out. And the same happened with Kodak. Kodak is a company that actually invented digital photography. And that's sort of kind of lost in the history books because they just couldn't seem to figure out how to monetize that and weave it into their film-based business. They kept thinking film was still going to be popular. And the rest of the digital photography revolution happened around them. And so those two companies did not embrace change. They did not stay relevant with the industry and what the customers were doing and wanting. And they had problems. So with your personal street cred, with and your personal reputation, what do you need to do to stay relevant? Let's go on to slide 13. And this is definitely a bit of an eye chart, but you really just don't need to see all of the text here, but I'm going to walk you through it. I have a little bit of a fascination with visual resumes, and visual CVs. And graphic designers often have these beautiful visual CVs. You can do a Google search on visual CV or visual resume, and you'll see designer after designer showing their techniques, their work, where they've worked, what their different accomplishments are. And of course, because they're visual designers, they do beautiful work, right? Their visual resume is just absolutely stunning, like a well-designed graphic of it. But then I came across this one, and this one is a German technologist, and he wrote a blog post in English about his visual resume. And basically, along the left-hand side is are the different years of his career from 1990 through 2010. And across the top are different technologies he learned and used in his job. And the lighter colors are when he learned something or when he was using it just every so often, maybe to fix some bugs or something like that. And the period of very dark colors is when he was using it day in and day out in his job. And so you can see on the left-hand side in the blue column is C and C++. So he used that pretty intensively in the mid-90s, less so today. And then moving across all the green columns are other technologies and frameworks that he learned in periods of time, and then using it as part of his job, and then putting it kind of maybe down or picking it up again too when it had to be a job requirement. And I just love how this visualization of his background shows that he is someone who's a lifelong learner and is constantly looking to improve himself. And he's very reflective on it too. He's able to go back and actually think about what he was doing at his career and represent it in this way. And he did this in an Excel spreadsheet. So this isn't some fancy, graphics tool. Any of us could do this if we're software engineers or not graphically capable to build those more beautiful lists. And boy, it's a whole lot better than just seeing, to me, just seeing a list of technologies maybe on your resume or a list of bullets saying, what you contributed in terms of technology contributions to different projects. And imagine going into your next interview with something like this that shows I know how to stay relevant, or my skill roadmap. So I do encourage you to think about that, how you can stay relevant and show that to build your career. And let's go on to slide 14. Just a quick review of what we've talked about. So we went over 5 techniques for how companies build their credibility with customers and how you can use these same techniques for your personal brand. The simple metrics from McDonald's, the association with celebrities like Betty White, the win-win solutions like the freemium software model, through the wisdom of others, the wisdom of the crowd, trust curated displays of nostrums, and by staying relevant so that you don't go out of business and improving your constantly and figuring out a way to prove that you know how to stay relevant. Visual resume. And now I just want to encourage you to stay in touch with me, and I'd love any questions you have or comments, additional thoughts you have about your street cred or ways that you've built it in the past. You can do it in the chat window. I'll be monitoring that, or if it's a very specific question, you can ask it through the question blue button, and Tiana will be monitoring that and bring it. I want to thank all of you for your time. Give people if they have a question. And hey, I'd love to hear if any of you have identified that one thing, that one technique that you want to apply to your LinkedIn profile, your resume, or the next interview or job review. I'd love to hear that. We'll give it a couple more minutes. Going to another session today. With an earmarked. Thank you, everyone. It sounds like we've got some quiet folks. I hope you reflect on this and think about how you can build your street technique. And as I said, stay in touch. I'd love to hear from you. Reach me through my website at KarenCatlin.com or on Twitter at KECatlin. Thank you, everyone, for your time today. Have a great afternoon, great morning, great evening, wherever you are in the world. And maybe we'll see you at one of the other sessions places later today.
Aaron, an amazing session, very comprehensive, and definitely many, many takeaways that people can leverage. I love the idea of just taking one and then build on that, building your reputation as you're transitioning or as you're going along your career trajectory. So it's been great. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be forwarding your recording to their friends and colleagues because this is definitely one you don't want to miss. So thank
Thanks
you
so much,
again.
Deanna. Thank you.
Okay, so this is a wrap of this session. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to invite you to our next session, Think Agile, Move Forward. It's all about Agile for business. Is it a good thing or is it not? This panel is going to talk through those issues and help you get some ideas on how you can leverage Agile for your own company, and if you're already using it, how you can make it better. So I look forward to seeing you at the next session. Bye,
Great.
everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, Karen.